And here we are. So welcome and thanks for coming. It's a nice little turnout today. Good to see some new faces and the familiar faces as well, of course. Today's session is a slightly different session. It's a slightly different flavour on mindfulness, and it's certainly not a necessary part or understanding or requirement to practice mindfulness is to have this awareness, but it's certainly something that has transformed my life in part by making me more aware of space and peace. So I do want to touch on it, but I'm also very aware that it's a difficult kind of topic to talk about because it's slightly on the edge of our experience in some ways. But very obvious in others as well. So I'll do my best. Please don't worry if you do get a little bit lost with it. I've had my own getting lost with this stuff in the past as well, and it can seem sometimes a little bit frustrating and elusive. But I'll do my best to explain it in a way that makes sense to me. And if anyone's got any questions about it or anything to say about it, then we can open that up for discussion shortly. There will be time for a meditation after this, but within the talk today, we'll have some mini practices and exercises as well to see if we can experientially acquire what I'm talking about today. So really, the essence of what I'm talking today is it's about spirituality, but it's very much about a grounded form of spirituality. It's about coming closer to reality, to perhaps an aspect of our direct experience that we might readily overlook at other times. And being that we often get so focused on what we're doing and the objects in the world that we overlook life, space, or awareness itself. And we can, or this faculty of consciousness, if you like. And if we can tune into that, if we can become aware of awareness, we can experience a different dimension, really, to reality. It's less physical, it's more spacious, calm, peaceful. So this is what we're talking about today. And if you're confused already, don't worry. And bearing in mind, this is about direct experience. So this isn't something we can acquire knowledge from books. This isn't something we can conceptualize. This is about our perception. This is about the nature of experience itself. So we're familiar with perhaps two of these layers or dimensions, which is, the sense objects of the world. This is, essentially experience. It can only come in the form of our sense perceptions. If we're looking at our own personal experience of how we experience the world, we have 5 windows. We have 5 windows of how we receive information. And they are obviously the 5 senses of sight, sound, touch, smell, taste. And what have I missed? Touch, sound, smell, taste, and sight. I got them all. We also have this wonderful ability to think about things. So this is the other dimension I'm talking about. We have the ability to perceive, and this is direct perception of a smell, of a sight, of a taste, of a sound, of a sensation. And then the mind will magically wrap all these labels and concepts around these objects to make meaning and sense of them, to relate to them. So we have a direct experience, and then we have this faculty of the mind which explains and describes. What we do in mindfulness often is we try to focus more on the senses themselves. We come one step closer to reality by noticing how involved the mind is in conditioning our experience, if you like. The mind is a great filter, and it uses the past to make sense of the present. And for a lot of us, and part of the way the mind works is kind of has a bit of a negative twist to it. It can, it's not the sort of most helpful way of explaining and describing things, because it's based often on fear, on lack, um, and negative experiences stick more in our mind than positive ones. So it's very easy for us to bias the world through a negative filter. So in mindfulness, what we're doing is we're coming closer to the senses, what we notice, what we can feel, taste, touch, smell. And we're noticing when the mind is in action. And that's a great practice. That's enough. That is what mindfulness is. And that in itself can be quite difficult to do, because we get so pulled into thinking, we get so pulled into the conceptual world, into the words, that we lose touch with reality, with what is happening, like now, the existence of us in the world now. Now, there's another layer. There's another layer which is also like the most discreet and simultaneously the most obvious. And this is, for all of this stuff to happen, there has to be space for this experience to arise. Now, if we're reading a book or a piece of writing on a page, we are completely focused on the words of the page, and that makes sense. But there's also has to be a page there for the words to exist. In the same way, there has to be physical space here for an object to exist within it. We can't have sounds without a foundation of silence. So there's something very fundamental to our experience, which is something we can know, something we can become aware of. And as I alluded to before, the nature of this awareness is spaciousness, it's peacefulness, openness, clear, it's transparent, it has very few characteristics actually, but we can point to it with words. So another way of looking at this is in terms of light. What is lighting up our world? And we can use natural light from the sun or artificial sources to identify objects in the world. But then in the absence of light, of physical light, there's another light that is aware of the absence of light. So if we shut our eyes, we're kind of used to then not using our visual faculties, but we can still access them, and we can still tune into. There's an awareness of the darkness coming through the eyes or the visual field. And it's the same with the sense of sound. We can open and receive sounds, but simultaneously be aware of the silent background of the sounds. And in fact, they're inseparable, like two sides of a coin. And this session today is just about giving us an opportunity to perhaps touch base with this, or to even, it might be the first time we've even heard of this or thought about it. And it's it can be quite powerful and transformative if we connect with it. So let's have a little go at just shutting our eyes. I think we'll all just take a minute, if you're comfortable to do so. And just noticing what it's like to shut the lids of the eyes and Is it possible to notice that the visual field is still active? We might see it as darkness. There might be some kind of strange colours or some changes in light. But there's an awareness of vision, regardless of what we can see. So it's not what we are seeing, but the seeing itself that we're noticing on, or that we're noticing. And does this seeing, does it have edges? Can we perceive any edges to it? Does it have any characteristics? Does it change? Is it personal? And we can move our attention to hearing, noticing any sounds as the objects, but then noticing the field of hearing itself as an open space. Is it possible to perceive any boundaries in this space? What about sensations of the body? Can we feel directly into any sensations, noticing perhaps the sensations of the feet on the floor, bum on the chair, any form of contact? There's the sensation and there's the slightly less obvious space in which the sensation occurs. So our awareness of objects is spacious. It's its nature. And it's okay to be a little bit confused by that stuff. We'll come back to the group, and what I shall do is give us just a minute to come round, and then we'll have an opportunity to ask some questions. So yeah, just finding a comfortable position. There's nothing special about it. One that allows you to remain relaxed. One that enables you to remain alert. Of course, if you want to completely relax and switch off, then you might want to lay down. You may wish to close your eyes. And we can start by allowing the sound of the bell in. Noticing how effortlessly sound arises. And as the bell fades, revealing the silence behind it. Bringing our awareness to the breath. Noticing the breath where we feel it the most in the body. We may notice it the most on the nose. We may notice it in the throat or the chest or the belly. The invitation is to focus on this area. Might be just a sense of the whole body breathing in and out. But we're focusing on the felt sense of breathing. This natural flow, natural rhythm. Noticing how each breath graciously makes way for the next. And it might be helpful to deepen the breath slightly, allowing the belly to relax, the shoulders to soften. As we receive the breath deep into the body, and noticing the relaxation is the natural accompaniment to the exhale or the out breath. And it might be helpful to count the breath, counting to 3 or 4 on the inhale and 3 and 4 on the exhale, just to build that nice, even, balanced flow of breath. You may prefer to visualize something like the waves of the beach, or the waves of the sea coming up the beach and falling away. And we notice when the mind wanders, when our attention drifts into thinking. We simply pick it up again and gently return our awareness to this deep, relaxed breath and this nice, even practice of counting or balancing the breath. Noticing the breath in detail, noticing the texture of the breath. And we may notice thoughts stirring, or we may simply realize that we were lost in thinking for the whole time. This is what meditation is. It's the awareness of our attention, noticing that we're with the breath and noticing when we're lost in thinking. And we do this 10 times or 1,000 times during the meditation. Simply, patiently, kindly returning our attention to the breath. And bringing more attention to the exhale, letting go of any counting or visualizations. Bringing our attention to the body, noticing how the body lets go as we let go of the breath. We can invite the mind to let go of thinking in the same way. Noticing how the body softens with every exhale. Can we notice the feet? Can we notice the contact of the ground underneath the feet? The stillness of the earth? Scanning up the body from the feet, through the knees, into the thighs and the hips. Noticing any sensations at all, noticing any contact of clothing. Noticing perhaps any itches or tickles, or perhaps a discomfort. And we're not here to change that. We can simply breathe alongside these experiences. Softening around them. Following the body scan up through the belly and the lower back, into the chest, the upper torso, the shoulders, all the way down the arms, into the hands. Noticing any sensations in and around the hands or the fingers. Any pulsating, tingling. Noticing the absence of sensation. Noticing if the mind is distracted or busy. And just bring in some awareness to the breath, And awareness back into the body and the hands. There's no wrong turns. We'll each have a very unique experience. So we bring that attention all the way out the hands, up the arms, the shoulders, into the area of the neck and the throat. Perhaps the head, the skull, the scalp, the brow. Noticing any sensations of air on the skin, around the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the lips. Noticing inside the mouth. And softening. And it's here that we are aware of the breath, not trying to alter it. We're aware of the body without needing it to change. We can enter a state of rest here. We don't have to work anything out. There's no expectation to be a certain way. There's no end point. In this moment we are free, essentially, to just be. And we have this wonderful faculty of awareness that allows us to notice this. Noticing the breath. Noticing the body. Noticing the space around the body. It may include the sounds. Noticing if there's any sounds around us that we are resisting or judging. And just noticing that we're not here to judge, but we will. We just notice whenever we find ourselves lost in thinking or judging. And we gently release that and come back to resting as we are. Connected to the ground. Connected to the space around us. Connected to the body and the breath. Noticing if there's any particular obstacle arising in our practice, something that we're judging or labeling as unwelcome or wrong. And just seeing if we can release that judgment and just allowing this experience just to unfold. Without any expectations of ourselves. There's no need to find the answer. Noticing if we get lost in thinking. This is a normal part of the meditation. It's a welcome part of the meditation. It helps us to remember to come home. Get lost in the story, pulled along down the river of thinking, and then as soon as we remember, I'm actually practicing meditation. Simply release that attachment to thinking. Allow it to roll on by. We come home back receiving the simpleness of our experience, the breath, sensations of the breath, receiving the sensations of the body, receiving the sounds, the silence and the spaciousness around us. And if there's some difficulties here, any kind of criticism or judgment, resistance, can we bring some self-compassion in? Maybe placing the hand on the heart or wherever we feel is appropriate, and just acknowledging that right now this is here, this difficulty is here. This is part of the human experience to go through these. Doesn't make us wrong or bad, it just makes us very human and very connected to each other. And we can smile at it, smile at our difficulties, offering them some peace. And as we come towards the end of the practice, we spend a few moments just recognizing And the benefits of meditation begin with ourselves, but they spread out into the world, into the people that we meet, the people we know, the people we love. And they spread out all over the community in the world. We can share that peace, that compassion, just by focusing on sending that out to the world. And taking the last real moment of this meditation to reflect, just privately, how did that go? How was it for me, that practice? And there's no wrong answers. But it is helpful to look at the answer and see if we were placing any expectations on ourselves. Maybe that's something we can learn for next time, just to let go. There's no wrong way of doing it. We're just here to notice what happens when we dedicate some time to being more mindful. And using the sound of the bell just to end the meditation, but staying with this awareness as we rejoin the group.